Well, this is Lady Park Wood. It's an ancient woodland with a written history going back to the Middle Ages. Its significance now is that it's become a test bed for research into how woodlands develop naturally. It's a mixture of beech, ash, oak and several other species. What you're standing in is a woodland which has been growing now for 150 years since it was last touched by foresters. So as near as you can find in Britain, what you're standing in is a near natural woodland.
But this woodland is special because it's been scientifically monitored. And George and others know some of these trees intimately, almost like people. They've known them for decades and they can tell you the stories of each individual tree. The Arborealists is a loose association, an artist collective. There are no rules, there's no constitution, people don't pay subscription, so they don't expect anything back really. And what I wanted above all was to have diversity of art practice. And it all coalesces, it all unifies around a single subject of the tree.
Well, why can't we get these artists to come and look at this wood? Because I understand this as a scientist, but I'd like to see how they understand it as artists.
And that's been extremely exciting for this group, and hence this project.
In this day and age where everything is so managed and even the landscape has become so industrialised, I think it's so important to have, areas of woodland like this which are purely left to nature.
You do get a sense of, something that's very wild and untouched.
With the fact that you can see all of the fairly active and wild processes almost literally going on around you, the skittles effect while one tree knocks another.
Pretty well much untouched in here, so things fall and they stay as they fall.
The quietness, because whenever you walk at home, even though I live in a small village, there's never any time I can't hear the distant hum of traffic.
Having George show us round from the beginning and explain how this wood has been left unmanaged, explain the kind of scientific measurements and data collection that's been going on for so many decades, to be able to walk up to individual trees and really give their life history, that brings a whole second dimension to looking at the woods.
I'm looking forward to seeing the exhibition because I'm hoping to see something new there. And so the Arborealists are going to learn from this science and ecology, which I'm sure will have an impact on the art they make and probably change the way they think about their subject, which is hugely exciting because we're into uncharted territory in a way for us by mixing science and art in this way.
So I don't need any persuading that art is important as a way of transmitting or communicating what we find, and I'm hoping that this exercise here with the Arborealists will actually help to communicate my kind of message as well as whatever message they want to communicate.
After a number of years, I got, I suppose, tired of traditional landscape painting, which is panoramic, if you like, and the lines are horizontal. The sky, the distance, the middle distance, they're always horizontal bands. And what attracted me especially to trees was the verticals. The verticals are the dynamic shapes you get in trees.
There's so many different ways that you can actually look at something, and explore something with your eyes, whether it's shape or form or structure.
I need to spend a lot of time outdoors drawing before I start painting. I need to feel that I'm sort of almost building a bit of a relationship with the trees. I love seeing the sort of intricate layers of the lacy ivy that wrap round trees.
And trees are a subject close to the heart of many British or English artists. And wherever he's exhibited, we've always wanted to include some good local artists. So there's a good sort of local feed in there. And that's added to the group's richness.
I've been painting trees for 17 years now, and I feel like I'm still a beginner. So I'm never going to exhaust the subject. The way that you work with paint is such a hands-on physical process, and to some extent it emulates what you see and what you experience in the woods. And this is going to get a lot more physical, I'm sure. There's going to be a lot more paint moving around, a lot more layering going on in my painting, to try and reflect some of the things that George has explained to us about what's physically happening.
Everything, has a structure. We are a structure, but everything has a structure, and that's what I want to try to bring across in hopefully what I do.
And this is my favourite time of year, certainly November, because you get these extraordinary colours in the sky, the peaches, the pinks and the yellows, and the leaf fall. It's this English melancholy which is so distinctive, an environment which I love, and evocative. It's so evocative, and it touches me that particular month, and we're there now.
Why are trees so special? I suppose everyone has their own answer to that kind of question. For me, they have a very substantial presence. They give the character to the landscape.
Well, trees are our survival system. If you have any knowledge about what trees do, trees, since time immemorial, are our providers.
They're important as resources, obviously. We need the timber, we need the carbon to be sequestered.
The fact that there's many animals that live in here, and they have a chance to live. They have a chance to live here in relative peace.
Equally important, and I'm absolutely experienced this myself, that they're vital to us for our spirit, for our well-being. I think a walk in the woods can completely turn your day around.
I'm sorry, I can't really put that into words, because it's like when there aren't any trees, there's no life really.
I mean, simply, I consider them other beings, really. I mean, that sounds, like a pretty hippie thing to say, but I really do.
And I sometimes wonder if they could actually talk, what would they say to us?
Of all the different living beings around us, for me, they just lift my spirits and make me alive. They bring me alive.
Being part of the Arborealists, I think, is wonderful because it helps to give a context to what one is doing. It's difficult to just work in isolation, and it actually makes it more interesting because you realise we all have this subject matter in common, but we all come to it from a very different perspective, and we all pull different things out of it.
I think there's a beautiful symbiosis, isn't there, between the idea of the forest, the group of trees, if you like, and the group of artists.
Being an artist, as most people know, is a hugely isolating experience. You're in the studio by yourself. If things go wrong, you can only fix it by yourself. And although I love that aspect of it, I wanted to continue the team working thing. So when I knew I wanted to become a full-time artist, I wanted to gather around me a group of supportive artists as a network.
It's very comforting, actually. It's a really nice support network.
Which works because we have semi-abstract artists, we have expressionist artists, we have realist artists, we have all sorts of different medium and scale, and they connect, they have synergies which link to each other. So hanging these shows are really quite exciting because you can place works side by side, which gives you added insight into why these things are there. And there's something for everybody.
To me, nature and wildlife are a way of, as it were, getting away from people and society, which is not to say I'm antisocial, it's just that one needs a bit of a holiday from constantly interacting with people and with artificial environments.
Most of humankind is divorced now from nature. They live in cities and they don't understand the natural rhythms of life and nature.
Beauty is an important thing to have in our lives, and we find that in nature probably, you know, in a sort of restful and unchallenging way, perhaps more than we do in other things.
Artists are drawn to trees through its immense history, its mythology, it's linked to religion. You know, the great pillars in cathedrals and churches are avenues of trees. The decoration is tree-like. So it goes back, right back to spiritual themes of humanity.
You know, I want to hopefully tell people about something. You know, if I see something, I want other people to know about it.
Because we also rapidly see what's disappearing. And if we can do, you know, the good side of humanity, use its power to preserve these places, then it's, you know, absolutely imperative, really.
So what we hope will come of this is a very wide breadth of responses to the wood, and yet, because we're all here in the same place at the same times of the year, it'll come together, I think, in a very cohesive show.
So hopefully we can make a difference through what we're doing here in some small way, to change people the way that they think about these places, and the fact that we need to conserve them and look after them for future generations.